Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast. We're coming to you from ITSM 15 in London. I'm Kirsty McGowan. I'm here with James Finister.
Hello.
Rob Stroud.
Hello.
And we're talking this afternoon with Dave Arms, one of the co-authors of a book on SIAM, which was launched at the conference this afternoon.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave, I have a copy of the book with me, as if
fantastic.
by ITSM magic.
Yeah.
Snappy title. Congratulations on SIAM Principles and Practices for Service Integration Management. Rolls off the tongue very well. Why the book? Why now?
Why the book? Why now? I think the history of the book goes back a couple of years. I and a number of other people have been working in IT service management for a while and realised that there was challenges in applying it to a multi-sourced environment. Through asking some questions of various people, somebody eventually said, well, it sounds like we should pull that information together, and would you be willing to be part of a team to do that? So really what we were looking to do was to pull together some of the things we know work and have been able to make work, just to kind of set a line in the sand, a stake in the ground that other people could then feed off and complement or even disagree with where they find it.
So is it a cookbook? Is it a framework, or is it just good, honest to goodness advice?
It's things that have worked, and then what we've tried to do is distill behind that what were the principles that led us to make those decisions for the things that worked, and also what were the things that didn't work, and what were the principles that we used to get to there, so that other people can try and challenge and question and develop what we've done.
So what's the audience? Who's the book aimed at?
Yeah, so the book is really aimed at both practitioners wanting to move into that area and develop and enhance their skills, but also customers looking at potentially, should we be developing a framework, or we found ourselves in a multi-sourced environment, what are the things that we can learn from others?
So I think we'll all agree that the number of service integrators we have, we went on this mass stage of aggregating them, and now actually they're exploding again.
Yes.
So what's the best tip in the book?
The best tip in the book, I guess, is really about, rather than focusing on the providers, focusing on the services that we as IT organisations need to deliver, and really, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. Don't try and fix every possible thing that could go wrong. Work out where you are in delivering your services, and then use that as an insight to go back and fix where you need to.
What sort of organisations are actually executing SIAM? What's your experience been?
So I've been in SIAM type environments in major multinational companies, right the way down to local councils here in the UK. So I think it's, rather than it being a size or an industry parameter, it really is a kind of maturity level where people are in their journey, and I think it applies to almost every organisation that might source their services from more than one provider.
For some time now, it's been seen maybe as a bit of a silver bullet. Do you think there's even maybe the beginnings for backlash against SIAM?
I'm not sure it's the beginning, so I think if you were to look at Gartner maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they would have defined service integration as being in the trough of disillusionment. I think we're coming out of that. I think the lessons are starting to bubble to the surface, and I don't think they're yet at the point of being best practice, but I think they're on the way. We're starting to make that long climb out, where the expectations are more realistic and the delivery is more delivering. That's my personal.
I must say at Forrester we're seeing a large number of organisations in the UK especially look at service integration and management. It's a topic on that we're getting a lot of calls on. So, as we see these calls, though, you're right, it's a large number of businesses. But, I think, do you think SIAM's applicable in a cloud outsourced environment?
For me, one of the areas I'm looking to expand my own knowledge on is that cloud consumption model. I think, if anything, it becomes more relevant in a cloud world, because the services you're buying are not customised to your environment in any way, shape or form. They are out of the box. You're having to work with somebody else's jigsaw pieces to build your own jigsaw. So I think you'll almost need more glue to hold those pieces together. So I think, personally, my view is it will become more relevant.
Do you think there's a move to a cloud model, which by its nature is commodity in many cases, and actually the organisation's ability to control the service level, so it's actually limited. So again, do you think SIAM might over-deliver, saying we can move to a cloud model, get real benefits out of it, when really all SIAM can do is sign the contract and then it's fire and forget?
I would say that, I think you've made the point many times before, if SIAM or service integration is in place before that contract is procured, then it needs to understand what's the gap between the service that's been procured and the service that is required, and come up with a way of closing that gap. I don't know what it is in every case, but I think the service integration function is, and the retained organisation are accountable for the gap between what they've procured and what they need to deliver. And sometimes they will need to spend more money to get the services they need to meet the needs of their business.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
That may push cloud out of their direct agenda, but
maybe. Yeah. But I think what we're moving to, what we're going to see in 2016 is more hybrid environments where part of the IT workload will be totally outsourced, part totally insourced, or a mixture. Do you think SIAM plays well into that environment?
yes, I mean, particularly when you combine it with things like the bimodal IT models, where you've got more dynamic, more flexible IT alongside more stable, more commodity IT. And you may see a maturity journey where things start in-house, bespoke, highly customised, and then evolve to the point where they can be commoditised and become applicable across multiple customers and then move into the cloud. I think it's going to be very dynamic for a while, and lots of interesting things are going to happen.
So, I mean, you mentioned bimodal, and that sort of with us as well, particularly takes us down the DevOps route. How do you see SIAM and DevOps coexisting?
So the closest I've come to it is starting to think about services in terms of tiers, and then the DevOps world plays better in the higher value, more flexible, higher end services very well, where you need to be very dynamic.
Mobile, web, etc.
Yeah, but at the same time very robust in your service delivery. And then as you come down into the commodity, I think you can move more to a waterfall model whereby you're producing a service, having a version 1, a version 2, a version 3, a version 4. So I think the tiering of services in delivery enables you to then integrate the DevOps bimodal concepts into your organisation. That's where we'd started to go in the organisation I'm with at the moment.
Well, again, if that's the question I ask you, in where you are now, you're part of a retained organisation, aren't you? Has the use of a SIAM provider actually helped retained organisation reposition itself and become more strategically important to the customer?
So it's definitely helped us. What we've found is that we can use the skills and expertise of the SIAM service provider more in the delivering functional components. I think we've talked as an organisation about the fact that actually it's not something you can have solely done to you. You have to be willing to engage, you have to invest the skills, the time and the experiences to ensure that it meets the needs of your business. But certainly bringing that knowledge and experience about how best to deploy this type of process or this reporting capability or bring analytics into your service management environment has been extremely useful for us. We just don't have enough resources to have built that level of experience ourselves.
And just one thing I'd like to, can you tell us a bit more about the other 3 authors? Obviously you haven't done this on your own, so who's the rest of your team? Yeah,
so the rest of the team is Peter McKenzie, who works in Australia. He has worked right since the General Motors days, so 10 years ago when the first really big kind of service integration type model was evolved, and he now runs his own organisation.
Yeah, we actually had the pleasure of interviewing him on the podcast at the Australian conference.
Fantastic. I've never actually met Peter face to face.
Virtual authoring, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, needs must, and the parachutists on the front cover. Did he explain the concept behind that?
No.
So Peter, at the same time as writing the book,
yes, of course he is a parachutist.
Yes, multi-talented, was going for the Australian record for free-fall parachute formation at the same time.
We did talk about that.
And we just felt...
See, I thought one of these was going to be you.
No, one of them's Peter. But he said, I'm the one in blue, and I have to work out which one. So there's Peter, Nicholas Engelhardt, who works in Sweden as a freelance consultant, and then Peter Viggers, who's been instrumental to many of the things that IBM's done over the last 5-10 years around shared service levels, etc. I knew Peter from previously, and we were all kind of brought together by Ivan McFarlane, one of the original ITIL version 2 authors, who, as he says in the preface to the book, felt that I asked one too many questions and thereby volunteered myself for some time.
Now that said, Barclays is quite interesting because it's quite private sector orientated. Yet there does seem to be a story that SIAM came from the public sector. Do you think that's a myth which needs to be addressed?
I think it's been evolving in one way, shape or form for many years, and certainly when I've talked to service providers and they're taking this journey, any time you've sourced any service or you have a supplier, you are having to integrate. So I think it would be very difficult to trace its genesis to any one particular sector. I know that particularly here in the UK, the public sector were very quick to have a model and a framework, but was that the first one? I'm not in a position to say, but I think it's been evolving a lot longer than the existence of that framework.
Yeah, I tend to think it's one of those overnight successes that took 20 years to get
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of those around, aren't there?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's probably been happening as long as IT's been managed by multiple organisations.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
We had to give it a name at some point.
So now where can people get the book from?
So it's available on the Van Haren website. It's also available for people attending the conference.
Right.
And I've been quite surprised by how many people have wanted it signed. So I think I've signed about 20 copies today.
Oh, excellent. Very good.
But yeah, just anywhere good books are sold.
You'll find it. Well, very good. Well, thanks for your time today. It's
thank
been
you.
a pleasure chatting with you, and I hope the book's a great success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.